Closed captioning provided by Beaufort County.
To order. We do not have a quorum at this time, and until we have a quorum, we will just begin. Where no action is going to be taken at this meeting anyway, so we can proceed. Because this is a workshop. Would you all rise for the pledge of the flag? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. At this moment in time, I recognize that we have 1, 2, 3, 4, and I do not see Mr. Glover. Is he there? Because I can't quite see the audience that's at the chamber.
Mr. Glover is not in the room yet. I think he's finishing up a phone call.
Okay. All right. So there are 4 members of council present at this point in time. We do not constitute a quorum as yet. Okay. Who would like to begin from administration?
I will. I'm going to give you all a brief overview and summary of where the budget stands at this particular point in time. And then I will be turning it over and recognizing various very talented folks that we have in our finance department. It'll be the first time that you will have an opportunity to hear from them with regards to budget presentations. The lead person from staff today will be Miss Pinky Harriet, who joined us within the last few months to be our budget director. So she'll be doing a lot of the presentation on the details of you all, for you all on the budget. What we're presenting to you today is a summary of where we stand with the budget at this time and not a final budget. This is to get your input because some of the things that we're proposing, we need your feedback on before we move forward with these particular items. So having said that, I want to start off by saying, first of all, I would like to thank all the department heads, the assistant county administrators, and members of the finance department, particularly Ms. Harriet in finance, for the work that they have done putting together the budget request for this year. Later on today, as a part of my weekly report to you all, I will be sending you and providing you a copy of the summary for the annual financial report. You will receive a full presentation on that at the Finance Committee coming up. We are no longer, just so you're aware, we are no longer supposed to call this the CAFR. It's either the Comprehensive Annual Financial Report or the Annual Financial Report. That is what we have been directed to call it from here on out. So that's the language that we will be using as much as we can until it becomes habit for us. Currently, as the budget stands at this point, we have $18 million in more requests than we had last year. So we're trying to pare that down. Some of the things that we will go over, and Pinky will go over that in more detail so you can see where those items come from. So a lot of new personnel, a lot of new vehicles and equipment are listed in that, and then some other things as well. With regards to new positions, we are recommending to council that no new non-public safety positions be funded this year for a couple of reasons. One, we are currently carrying about $3.2 million in vacant positions in our budget that have not been filled for some time. So we have asked the department heads, or we will be asking the department heads through the assistant county administrators to go through those lists to see what we can really remove from the books. And if any new positions need to be funded For that, we're recommending that those new positions come from the deletions of previous vacant positions so that there will be no budget increase on those items. That does not apply to public safety issues currently. As you all know, public safety, detention, EMS, we have a difficult time filling those positions, so we could not do that and still maintain an appropriate level of service. If we have the opportunity to fill those positions, we would like to go ahead and do that. With regards to the facilities master plan, we have not programmed any substantial funding for the facilities master plan because that is still going on and being finished at this point. By the time we present that to you all and get your feedback and get that approved, we will then have to go through a phasing analysis on how we're going to do and implement the facilities master plan, get you all to approve that as well, and then we will have to look at funding of those positions and how we're going to go about doing that. So we have not programmed the substantial amounts for facilities planning in the way of new construction. In addition to that, we have major infrastructure projects that we have got to get moving on if at all possible. That's the Highway 278 corridor project and the improvements to Ladies Island transportation system. Those projects, coupled with trying to start new building projects with the county, is probably going to be problematic for us to manage with our present staffing levels. And I feel like I cannot add additional responsibilities to Mr. Freilich's plate at this particular point in time because he has a lot to do already in managing the infrastructure transportation projects that we have. So I will stop there and let you all ask me any questions about those two summary items before I move on to the other item. Anybody have any questions about those two things? Okay, we do, Mr. Chairman, just so you're aware, we do have Mr. Lawson has joined us inside the council chambers.
Okay,
As
we're still one short of a quorum though.
Yes, sir.
Correct? Okay.
So, all right, so what we plan to do with facilities is some time ago, we issued a $5.5 million GO bond to do renovations to the administration building, but that was put on hold until the facilities master plan was completed and developed. We decided what that facility and master plan would recommend. So what we're recommending to you all as council with this budget year is that $5.5 million that we already have in place for borrowing, that we use those monies to cover the significant maintenance and renovation needs that we need to do to our existing facilities in the next fiscal year. So there will not be a substantial increase for our facilities planning and renovations because we will use the $5.5 million if you agree to do that. Those renovations and improvements to various buildings throughout the county. And then finally this morning, before I turn things over to Pinky, and this may take some time for discussion, Tiffany, if you will pull up the organizational chart. We have worked, our ACA team has worked. I've worked mostly on a way to continue to flatten the organizational structure of the county. And I'm going to share that with you all this morning. This is a draft organizational chart that I would like for you all to consider as we go through the budget process. This organizational chart will call for the combining of one department and the creation or reclassification of 3 new positions at the county level. So if you will start at the top where you all are, essentially you all direct the duties of the county administrator and the clerk to council on the organizational chart. Obviously that cannot and would not change. One of the things you will notice about the deputy county administrator and county administrator position is that no other departments report directly to those entities underneath this new organizational chart because the county administrator and deputy county administrator, in my opinion, need to be free to work with the ACAs who should be overseeing other county operations. The only non-ACA related department would be our legal department, and that would answer directly to the county administrator as should be the practice, and records management has already been moved under that division. I'm going to start with ACA for finance. And you all stop me at any time if you have a question or a comment about any of this. Currently, the ACA for finance is also the chief financial officer for the county. As you all are probably aware, if you're not, you should become aware that having a chief financial officer and ACA under the same title does not allow that ACA much of an opportunity to pay attention to the other departments that are on the right side of that chart: assessor, register of deeds, human risk management, that are currently underneath them. And I would like to move human resources under finance, since they have to interact with payroll on a regular basis, and so much of our budget is personnel related, so that makes sense to all of us on the ACA team. So we would be adding a new position this year called Chief Financial Officer. That would free the ACA for finance up to focus less attention on directly finance-related things and spread the time out over various other departments underneath that particular assistant county administrator. So I will pause here and see if there's any comments or questions about that.
Hey,
Okay. Yes.
Sarah, could you make that chart a little bigger somehow?
Yes, sir, and if you click, if you change your view to side by side, you'll be able to see it clearer as well.
Side-by-side gallery or side-by-side speaker?
I would do side by side speaker.
Yeah, it doesn't make this chart bigger. Okay, I suppose if he's just going to go through one at a time, you can move it so that we can see what he's talking about. Okay, never mind.
I will also email this to you all today as well. Again, you know, some people will be like, why is he going over this with me? His job is to do this. Why is he going over all this with us? As I've told you all many, many times, it's my position as county administrator that I am to communicate as much as possible with the county council. If you don't need to see something or don't want to see it, then I'm happy for you not to pay attention to it. But I would rather you say that you don't want to see it or don't want to pay attention to it than me not share it with you. So I am sharing it with you as to the direction that we would like to take the organization as a group. So moving on to the next line, currently the ACA for that position oversees all of those functions, and then everything underneath what's been termed as ACA for community services. So there's many departments in the current position. So this would be a new position that would just be termed development recreation, and they would be over planning and zoning. Building inspections and code enforcement would combine into one department, and the building official would oversee both inspections, permitting, and code enforcement. And then parks and recreation would be underneath that, and the LCOG duties would be underneath that, since there's so much community development planning that happens with LCOG underneath that, underneath those functions as well. Moving over to the next column is the ACA for infrastructure planning and maintenance. Essentially, that's transportation, public works, facilities, solid waste, recycling, all of those things. Am I too far away? Sorry. Thank you. Appreciate it. So everything on the left side would be underneath the Public Works Director. That would be fleet, stormwater, traffic operations, and roads and bridges. Not much has changed with that. Over on the right side, facilities will stay underneath that ACA. Solid waste and recycling, as that continues to progress and increase. Capital projects, airports, transportation engineering. You will notice in that particular chart, there is no special projects position, because special projects will go away, and the person in the special projects role now will oversee capital projects, and that would be Mr. Wilhelm. We are also evaluating whether or not we need to continue to flatten this particular part of the organizational chart, because for one ACA to oversee that many varied functions and significant functions of the operation is very difficult and does not provide, there's not enough time in the day. And when I say day, I mean a 24-hour day. There's not enough time in a 24-hour day for Jared to do everything that he needs to do with all of those particular things as we're doing transportation projects, trying to evolve solid waste into an enterprise fund, doing what we're doing with the airport and all of that. So it may make sense for us to look at providing some sort of additional assistance to the ACA for that so that Jared can provide more attention to you all as council members, because I hear a lot of, I get a lot of feedback from you all about not being able to get in touch with him. And it's not because he's ignoring you, it's because he's so focused on doing all the other things that he has to do on a daily basis. So we're continuing to work through that. Anybody have any questions? Okay. Moving on to public safety. Detention center, animal services, emergency medical services will stay the same. We would be proposing to move mosquito control back underneath public safety as it was prior to the last reorganization. And then we would be moving the functions of disaster recovery underneath public safety as well, but just because of the communication, the coordination that has to take place for those functions. The next new position is a retitlement of our existing person in the job. Patrick Hill would become an ACA, and he would be an ACA for IT and communications, and he would oversee information technology and applications, GIS, the Public Information Office, and broadcast services. Those are related functions that make a lot of sense for those things to communicate and be in coordination together. And then ACA for community services, we moved some departments out of that into the ACA development recreation position, and those would pretty much stay the same underneath that for community services. Those things related to community services, and all of those items would stay there. Alcohol and drug abuse, Department of Disabilities and Special Needs, Human Services, Library, Veterans Affairs, voter registration and elections. And then the final on that line would be legal and records management underneath legal. And that's pretty much that organizational chart. I'll be glad to answer any questions or receive any comments or feedback. And if you aren't able to do it today and you need time to think about this, please feel free to comment on it after the fact. We will email this to you all. I will email this to you all at some point this morning during this budget workshop so that you all will have it. But that is the proposal that I would like for you to think about, analyze, and provide feedback and communication to me on what your thoughts are on this particular item. So we would be reclassifying one position to a higher level. That would be Patrick Hill. We would be creating a new ACA position and a new Chief Financial Officer position underneath us. So that concludes my part of the morning. If you would like to comment now, I'll shut up. So
I have a comment and a question, if I might.
yes.
So the comment is I'm one of those folks who just needs time to digest this for sure.
Okay.
And then the question would be, when is this proposed to take effect?
It would take effect when the new budget takes effect on July 1.
Okay. I would just pose to council that one of the things that I'm curious about is if we get a permanent administrator, is this going to change? So the timing is a little bit curious. And I'll just leave that as a rhetorical question to council.
Okay. Thank you for that. I'm going to now turn it over to Miss Harriet, and she's going to come up and go through more detailed financial information for you all so you can actually start seeing some numbers. Thank you all very much. Look forward to continuing to work with you all on my first budget process with you. Thank you.
Eric, it's you, if I could.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I generally like what you're going on the organization. I don't see anything magical about waiting till the beginning of the next fiscal year. I think you can do whatever you want to, as far as I'm concerned.
Well, I appreciate that, Mr. Rodman. We would want to make sure that proper funds have been provided by council and they've had a chance to weigh in on providing for these positions and all. So I would prefer that we do this as a part of the new fiscal year, and that way it's a good, clear timeline. To Mr. Hervishon's point, if you all are, whenever you all decide who the permanent county administrator is, hopefully that would be well underway as a part of this budget approval process before July 1, in case there's any modifications or changes that need to happen to this. So that's why I'm recommending that we wait until July 1.
Mr. Greenway?
Yes, sir.
I like your organizational chart quite a bit. I think it makes a lot of sense, making the movements that you did. I'm untroubled by when it's implemented. I do have a question about the $18 million more requests.
Mm-hmm.
What's the revenue projections with regard to that extra $18 million?
You're getting ready to hear that from Miss Harriet. She's going to answer those questions for you, give you the revenue projections and the expenditure projections.
I will be on the edge of my seat.
Thank you very much. Any other comments or questions for me? Thank you all.
Good morning, council.
Good morning, Peaky.
Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
So this is a spreadsheet that we are currently working on, just to give you some background. The upcoming fiscal year, we have decided to take a look at our accounts, our line items, our overall chart of accounts. And I know this is a lot of information at one time. And if you will take a look at the very, very top. So the gray areas at the very top are, can you scroll to the top, please? Right. So the very top areas are the elected officials, and these are the fiscal year 22, which is the fourth column to the right. These are their budget requests, which have a few notes over to the right side regarding their budget requests for the upcoming fiscal year. And I'm sure during their presentations at the Finance Committee meeting and at the second scheduled budget workshop, we'll get a little bit more detail. But we will probably start with the internal county departments right below the gray area. As you can see in the difference column, the items that are in red are where we have already made some decreases in departmental budgets, but there are several different areas where we have offset some increases. And we've taken the ability at this during this budget time to consolidate a lot of our departments that were separated out into different departments but needed to be in one department. So in fiscal year 22, this is going to look a whole lot cleaner. And as we scroll down this this spreadsheet, you will see a lot of marked out departments. That means that that is a department that is being consolidated into another department. And therefore, we are cleaning up a lot of our chart of accounts in the upcoming fiscal year. To date, we were able to consolidate 21 departments. And previously, we had 21,000 line items that we previously worked on. But in the upcoming fiscal year 22, we're going to be closer to the 10,000, probably do a little more cutting in the other special revenue funds and so forth. So hopefully that number will get down to be a little bit cleaner, because we want our chart of accounts to be a whole lot cleaner in preparation for our budget document and to apply for the GFOA Distinguished Budget Award that both Whitney and I have received at our previous counties. As we scroll down, we have done department totals, And we have fiscal year 19 actual in the first column, fiscal year 20 actual in the second column, and what was approved in fiscal year 21, and what has been requested in fiscal year 22. And as we scroll down this spreadsheet, as Eric mentioned, we have got a bit of an increase based on what we have requested from the department heads. But we are slowly but surely working with our assistant county administrators and the finance team, and we are going through to see what we can fund in the current fiscal year or possibly use other funding sources to remove these large expenditures from the general fund. Does anybody have any questions at this time?
Yeah, I have one. Is this document coming to us somehow?
Yes, sir. It's a working document right now. We're trying to clean it up a little bit more, and then we will email it out to council when the administrator's ready.
Would you just go back to the top gray areas and tell me what that is again?
The very top from the first line from county council down to the 14th Circuit Solicitor,
Yeah.
those are all, anything in gray is
Yeah.
elected officials, department budgets.
Oh, I see. And on the right-hand side is the proposed difference in funding for this coming year. Is that it?
Yes, sir. Anything that is in black, it would be an increase, and anything in a red is a decrease.
Got it. Okay, thanks.
I have two questions, if I might. On the county council line, I'm assuming that increase is due to it being the first full year of a payroll increase?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And then when this comes to us, is it possible to have some sort of a color-coded key? Like, what does yellow mean? What does green mean?
Absolutely.
Okay. Yeah, I struggle with colors on spreadsheets.
No, you're fine.
Disclosure.
A lot of those notes, anything in yellow is a change in the upcoming fiscal year. So it's going to look a little different. As, for example, we are moving funds that were previously allocated in special revenue funds, which should be paid out of the general fund, and accounting for instance, some of the business license salaries and so forth were previously being coded to the special revenue fund, but we would like to accurately reflect our salaries, and they should be paid out of the general fund. So, and other yellow areas are kind of reminders for us to go back and follow up. And then a lot of the yellow areas are departments that we got consolidated into other areas and cleaned up a little bit. And then also some of these yellow notes to the right reflect some changes that the administrator is proposing for the next fiscal year. Anything in green is just something that has to be funded. So, and for instance, one of the largest increases in the general fund will be that $6.6 million. That was currently general government health benefits, and they were being accounted for in a special revenue fund, but that's a general fund expenditure. And so we're taking it out of the special revenue fund and moving it back into the general fund.
Mr. Rodman has a question.
Yes, sir? I can't see that. Yes, sir, Mr. Rodman?
Yes. If it would be helpful if we could have a version in thousands to look at. It's a lot easier having so many numbers. And secondly, I don't know if you have it or not, but parentheses for negatives are always easier to see. But if you could do one in thousands, that would be helpful for all of us, I think.
Sure thing. Can I answer any other questions? So just to cover a couple of other updates that we're doing to the general fund budget for next fiscal year is we have several functional improvements. One, as I mentioned earlier, were the various departments that we are consolidating to make our chart of accounts a little cleaner. And we also took this opportunity to consolidate functions in different areas that were spread out throughout our departments. For example, utilities will all be housed in facilities maintenance. All IT-related softwares and enterprise applications will sit with the IT department instead of being billed out into each individual department as it is now. And then all insurance costs will now go to risk management, where it's being managed versus split out into every individual department. This is helping us kind of better manage all of our costs in the appropriate areas. Any questions?
Pinky, if I can,
Please.
I'll elaborate a little bit on that. What we are striving to do here is create more efficiency, not just in the budgeting process itself, but also in the continuation of that, with there being a ripple effect all year round as invoices are billed to us by various vendors and they go through the approvals process and subsequently the accounts payable process, with the end result being a check that is cut back to that particular vendor. What some of this allows us to accomplish is a reduction in duplication by department heads in preparing a budget. Just for example, Mr. Philfoot's department would no longer have to try to estimate out his piece of the total electricity cost, for example, or water cost, or information technology needs, such as the telephone piece or computers piece. And likewise, Mr. Rosenau would not be having to back out that piece from different budgets. So what this allows us to do is look at the county's expenditures by a particular line item in a total, and then budget for those in the department whose sole responsibility most appropriately fits that line item. So we're creating a bit of an efficiency there in the budget process, but then carrying on through that, the approvals would still be done at the requisite department head level so that each department head can verify that the use by their particular department for one of these line items is appropriate, reasonable, and a legitimate expense of the county. But once forwarded to AP for processing, we thereby gain some efficiency, because rather than breaking out, for example, an IT bill or a utility bill across 200 or 300 different locations countywide, when you consider parks and rec and libraries and all these other things, we could then record it to one code only. And that saves significant time in the keying process of AP, reduces the error, potential for errors in the data entry process, and just all in all is a better practice in our opinion. So that's one of the things that we're hoping to accomplish here. Additionally, just to reiterate a bit of what Pinky said, in the consolidation of some of our departments and some of our funds, there is actually something called the minimum number of funds principle that is issued out there by most state accounting offices, and our oversight body is governmental accountants, who is the Governmental Accounting Standards Board, also known as GASB. Mr. Herbershine, I'm sure, is probably quite familiar with FASB. That's the Financial Accounting Standards Board, who really applies to all the private sector. But in government, in the governmental area, the public funds arena, our oversight body is primarily the GASB. And there's this principle called minimum number of funds principle. And we are simply trying to apply that effectively. And where we can create some streamlining, that is what we are attempting to do this year. So what you will wind up seeing as we continue to work through this document, and please keep in mind right now the fiscal 22 column requested is simply that. They are requests from each of our departments this year. That is by no means what we are proposing to you guys at this point in time. They are simply requests. So as we work through the detail of those and we're able to better determine what we realistically can fund and what is vital and crucial and necessary to being able to provide an excellent level of service to our citizens, you may see many of those changing. And particularly as we work toward funding our compensation and classification study, which was presented to you all during the budget retreat this year. So what you'll see as we work through this document are our efforts to clean things up. We have 20,000 accounts in our system. Not all of those are active. And certainly you can imagine, as we're piecing together a document of this size, having all of those line item accounts can be quite a cumbersome process. So our end goal here is to still provide you with a very nice, professional looking, detailed line item budget, but one that is easier on the eyes in terms of presentation, It's more user-friendly, and we feel actually will enhance the readability of the document and those who might actually want to take a look at it, because it's much easier to digest and to look through, and thereby we hope increase transparency with our citizens. So I think that you'll be very pleased with our end result as we continue to work through this. And as Pinky said, we're working toward the GFOA Distinguished Budget Award, which we each received in our previous employment. That may not happen in our first year, but we are taking steps in the current year to plan toward that for future years. So we are happy to entertain any questions you have this morning as we continue to work through this, the budget process with you in this workshop. But I just felt like I wanted to give you a little bit more of an overview on what it is exactly that we're trying to accomplish this year. And I know that, yes.
I think your modest statement that you are creating a bit of an efficiency is a terrible understatement. I think this is a huge step forward, and your use of the minimum number of funds is long overdue. So I congratulate you on the philosophy and the theme that you're developing here. I think it makes a great deal of sense. And I think that your claim of a bit of efficiency is actually a boatload of efficiency is going to be seen here, the way you've got this organized. So nice work.
Thank you for that. It is most definitely a concerted effort. We have a great finance team this year, and rather than having just a few hands on deck, we have many hands make for light work. So not that it's a light thing to achieve, but we are working toward it collectively. We've got great synergy right now, and the momentum is going. So I hope that you guys will be pleased with the end result when we get ready. I'm going to let Mr. Williams, if you guys don't have any other questions on the expenditure piece, let him speak a little bit to the revenue side, since he actually worked more thoroughly on developing our revenue projections. And he can talk to you about some of those, but at a very high level view, we took the same format with prior year actual data, looked at those and intuitively applied accountants to intuition on some of those where we could. Some of them tend to be a bit more volatile than others and are more difficult to project. And of course, as you know, we're still trying to nail down the value of the digest this year as the assessor's office completes changes from 4 to 6% or vice versa. So those numbers are certainly not set in stone at this point in time. But the general growth that we've seen in the digest and in the economy this year, even with collections from our Register of Deeds office, we felt fairly comfortable with about a 2% increase in our ad valorem taxation, which also is consistent with the CPI through February this year, which is 1.7. And we felt like with the values that we've seen in the market, that will be a realistic projection. So that's a little introduction to him, but I'm going to let him talk a little more in detail about that. So Hayes, I'm passing it off to you now.
Good morning, Council. I've worked on the revenues. I've done averaging, trend analysis on all of these numbers. We held last year our revenues pretty well flat as property taxes, and we reduced some of our charges for services and licenses and permits. For next year, we're kind of looking at it as a more of a regular year, a year that kind of hopefully things return to normal is what we're looking at. So we're predicting a significant increase in revenues from the prior year's budget. But if you look back through 2019 and 20, it's kind of on the same track, especially since I think our property taxes for 2021 are going to be significantly more than we budgeted for. I hope to see that by the end of the year. But the big thing is we're seeing about a $9,000 jump, or $9 million jump in property taxes. And that would have been, what I did there was I did a trend analysis of the preceding 5 years and the increase in millions of dollars, and then did an average, and then it was pretty close to what we thought it would be for this year, and added a little bit to it. But that's really the biggest thing in here. There are a couple increases. There's some more increases kind of across the board, and some decreases. Y'all are going to say, hey, there's $250,000 worth of interest. You know, we had $400,000 worth of interest last year. And, you know, we felt that we needed to adjust that number, you know, because our property taxes bills went out a little later, and we didn't have the money to draw that interest for several months that we did in preceding years. So we adjusted that one down. But based on the trends and the averages on the preceding years, you know, Whitney and Pinky and I kind of feel that this is the $140 million is a good baseline budget for our revenues right now. And it might be that as we are going through and adjusting, that they may change here and there. But this is a good starting point. And I think that's the whole exercise of what we're doing today, is getting a starting point and giving y'all an expectation of kind of what's going on. So if anybody has any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. Okay. Thank you, council. And I would like to say it's very refreshing to have Pinky here, because I was in one man show last year with Ashley, but Whitney and Pinky have lifted a lot off me, and I wanted to give a big thank you to them publicly. And where Pinky came in January, and her knowledge of Beaufort County is pretty phenomenal for the 2 months that she's been here. So thank you to both of them.
Thank you.
It's my understanding that you all may have been already emailed the organizational chart, but we're going to clean up the expenditure piece and the revenue piece, and we will email this as a complete package to you all, including the organizational chart, so that you all can keep things together, and we will title it in the subject as workshop with this date, FY 22 workshop 1, so that you all can know what was presented at each workshop. That is all we have this morning for you all, unless you all have any questions or comments for us or anything else you would like to have. I see Mr. Rodman's hand, so.
I would just compliment the team on a very, very professional job that's being done. There's an awful lot of hard work that goes into all the things you're talking about and the accuracy of what you're doing. So I'm just delighted with how professional this is.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. I would like to make one announcement to everyone. This is an off-agenda item. First of all, I see that our treasurer is on this morning, and we have a couple of elected officials. I want to welcome them. I appreciate the assistance that Ms. Walls and her team have given to us, as I always am appreciative of her work with us and her attitude and cooperation with us. So thank you, Maria, to you and your team. I want to also thank you for your hard work on getting us through a relatively, a very difficult property tax collection season. So job well done. You're to be commended, and your team is to be commended for that. So thank you. Finally, it is my, you're welcome. I have some information I want to share with council. This is potentially, it's an off-agenda item, but I feel like I need to make council aware of what is going to happen Monday afternoon and evening prior to the council meeting. We have the mask ordinance on the agenda that will be discussed Monday evening. I have information that folks are going to be trying to enter this building Monday evening without their mask on. Since March 15th, I have not allowed, and I have given instruction to my staff to not allow anyone, any member of public, to come into this building without their mask on. And if they refuse to wear their mask and come into this building, then they will be refused entry into the building, or they will be asked to leave the building. That will occur again Monday evening if we have folks coming to the council meeting that refuse to comply with the mask ordinance. You all have hired me to do a job, And part of that job and part of my ethics as a certified planner is to adhere to the rules and regulations of the community that I work in. And I will be doing that Monday evening. There will be a security detail here on site that will be checking folks coming into this building, as we have done with other recent meetings. And that will be occurring. They will be checking for entry from a security standpoint, and also if they do not have on their mask, they will be asked to not attend the meeting. So whatever you all can do to assist us with conveying that information to folks who are communicating such plans through Facebook or other social media means or other platforms, I'm asking for your assistance on doing that. If you all do away with the mask ordinance as a majority of council, then of course we will comply with that as well. But right now we have a mask ordinance in place. I do feel like we are obligated at the county level to enforce that. So I just wanted to share that with you all so that you all would know my perspective before Monday evening. I'm happy to discuss it with any council member if you would like to give me a call. Thank you very much.
I have a quick question. How are we going to control individuals who have an exemption?
They can communicate to us such exemption when they enter the building. We are not we're not medical personnel.
Right. Yeah, my concern would be that if everybody is blanket turned away and somebody says, well, I have an exemption and they're still turned away, that we're going to create a bigger problem for ourselves.
And again, you all have entrusted me with doing this correctly and efficiently. And I think, and I'm gonna make a statement here, and I don't mean it to be offensive or combative or anything. I feel like I have done an effective job of acting in a professional and efficient manner since I've been in this role. That will continue Monday evening as I go through managing the operations of this building and the operation of this county. And we will do it in a way so that it is not offensive and it is non-adversarial and hopefully non-controversial on our side of the equation. Some people that are doing this just want to be adversarial and controversial. And my job is to do what the county council and the city council in this particular case has asked me to do with regards to compliance with local ordinances in place. If the council,
Eric?
yes, sir.
When there's entry, as Mr. Hirschhorn pointed out, when someone makes a claim that they have a medical exemption, how do you prevent or how do you deal with a false claim of medical exemption? Do we have any guidance with regard to how that claim for medical exemption has to be backed up, or can it simply just be an oral statement that has to be?
Honestly, I'm not going to worry about that. If they make the claim that they have a medical exemption, I'm going to let them into the building. Because we can't put ourselves in that situation at the staff level of combating that. But it's going to be pretty obvious to us, I think. So who's doing it with a medical exemption and who's just doing it to try to circumvent the rules in place. So I'm not trying to be controversial. I'm not trying to be adversarial with council. But, you know, if they want to come in and participate in the public discourse, then they can do that by complying with the rules and regulations in place whenever they enter the building. If you want to do away with the mask ordinance Monday night, then we will adjust accordingly.
If someone makes a claim that members of council don't wear masks, will we let those people in as well?
Again, my job is to control the public flow into the building as I've done since March 15th. Those have been the protocols that I've established since March 15th. And those are going to be the protocols in place on Monday evening for entry into the building. I am not in a position, I feel like, to communicate or direct council as to what they should do. But I am in a position to manage entry into this building.
Okay.
Yes, sir, Mr. Rodman. You're on mute.
I was just going to say, we as council have to abide to those rules.
Well, yeah, we're supposed to do that, but for the past few meetings, we have people that haven't abided by those rules, even though there's an ordinance in place, and we've taken an oath to adhere to that ordinance. We're kidding ourselves. Stu, they're going to show up the door and say, your own members don't wear masks. Why should I wear one?
I understand. If me, I'd have a couple deputies there and escort any members out that don't want to comply.
Well, to the point that I brought up earlier, there are medical exemptions in that ordinance, number one.
Sure.
And then number two, I mean, we've had members of staff who have been, shall we say, cavalier with the wearing of masks. And the public, for that matter. So, I mean, like, how far down this rabbit hole do we want to go?
Well, we're in my position and my communication to you, I don't plan to go too far down any rabbit hole. I'm communicating to you all that I plan to enforce the ordinance as currently in place Monday evening, as I have instructed the staff to do since March 15th. You are correct. I do take my mask off when I'm at the microphone, usually, because many of you on council say that you cannot hear me with my mask on, so I have no choice but to take my mask off. So it's not that we're being cavalier at the staff level. It's just that we're trying to be effective. So again, I'm not trying to get into a deep discussion on this issue. I wanted you all to understand that my position so that I could communicate that to you.
How many people you think will be coming on Monday night, Eric?
I have no way of knowing, but we are going to be prepared and we're planning for it, and we're going to have a plan of action to deal with it should it occur.
Have you contacted the sheriff's office and informed them of this?
All of that's underway currently.
Okay.
Eric, what's our capacity here under the current rules?
How many number of seats we have in the room? I think it's
So-
like 25 or 27.
So the first 25 is all who will get in because it don't.
First 25 wear a mask.
Yep.
Okay. Thank you all very much. That's all we have. Unless you all have any additional questions or comments, we will email the budgetary items out to you all, probably with our weekly report later today, so that we have a chance to clean up things and address the items that you all requested so that things are clear. Thank you all. Again, if you all have any questions about the last item I just discussed, please feel free to give me a call. I'll be glad to communicate with you. Thank you. Mr. Chairman, I'll let you turn it back over to you to adjourn, sir.
Okay. Because I have Spectrum here now. Are there any further questions from council members before we adjourn this meeting? Seeing none, then we are adjourned at 10:58, and we will see you on Monday. Have a good day.
The County Channel is also available on video on demand. Go to BeaufortCountySC.gov, scroll down to Public Meetings, click Watch Now, and then click the Video on Demand button and select your program from the list.
Call the meeting to order.
If you'd like a DVD of this program, click on the link on the right and fill out the order form. And thank you for watching the County Channel.
The county is one of the oldest forms of local government in the United States. Early settlers from England brought the tradition of county government to America. Today, more than 3,000 county governments provide services that affect almost every citizen's life. South Carolina's 46 counties are very representative of how county government has evolved nationally. The county unit in South Carolina was regarded as the local extension of state government. But a state constitutional reform movement in the early 1970s led to the South Carolina General Assembly passing the Local Government Law, also known as the Home Rule Act, in 1975. The Home Rule Act greatly expanded county authority and changed the nature of county organization and administration to what we know today. Beaufort County went from having a board of directors to a county council. Members of the 1975 council included Chairman Arthur Horn, Vice Chairman Grady Thames, Leroy Brown, Gary Fordham, William Grant, Harriet Kaiserling, David Jones, Bill McBride, and Booker Washington. As the new council sought to distinguish itself, council members desired an official symbol that would represent the jurisdiction's identity and unique character. Council appointed an ad hoc committee to undertake the task and carry out a contest for the best county seal design.
Harriet Kaiserling was a member of county council, and it was her idea because we didn't have anything that could significantly identify our beautiful Beaufort County. We met then up at I think it was the Carolina Bank, and some years ago back there on West Street, and then we put them in piles, like good, bad, maybe, until we finally got it down to the one that we now use.
County Council approved the Seal Committee's recommendation, which reflected the county's history, traditions, and natural beauty. The Seal's colors of blue and green represent the colors of the county's outdoor environment, with its many waterways, marshlands, and maritime forest. The 5 images within the seal depict some of the county's distinguishing features: ancient live oak trees, the seafood industry, rich natural resources and a rare marine ecology, low-country architecture, and miles of rivers, creeks, and inlets.
I was really impressed. I thought it encompassed what we as a body were looking for. A seal that would, when you looked at it and just thought about it a little bit, it really covers the aspects of Beaufort County. So he did a good job of bringing together the things that we hold so dear and what we really like about Beaufort County.
Councilman Bill McBride was in office when the contest was held and was present when the committee revealed the winning design.
I think council was ecstatic about it. We thought that the symbols on the seal represented aspects of life in Beaufort County. There is a slight change in the original draft that was presented to us, where you have the shrimp boat today. Initially that was a pleasure craft, a sailboat, yacht type boat, and it was changed by county council because we felt that the shrimp boat was a better representation of a more comprehensive aspect of Beaufort County life, because you had other things on the seal that represent the pleasure and recreation, the fishing and the beach. So they thought the shrimp boat, which was a very important part of Beaufort County culture, shrimping, especially at that time, would be reflected on the seal.
The winner of the contest was an artist from Hilton Head Island, the late Lee Payne, whose design was selected from more than 126 entries submitted from as far away as Indiana and Tennessee. He was awarded $250 for his design, but more importantly, he captured the legacy of outdoor beauty, culture, and history that helped to define important aspects of life in Beaufort County.
To see more Beaufort County moments, go to the Beaufort County Library homepage and click on the Local History tab.